Hi, welcome to the Silent Avenger channel. If you're enjoying the content, please consider giving it a like and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive into today's story. I'm Andrew, a 40-year-old programmer living what I thought was a pretty good life. I've been married to Jennifer for 15 years, and we have a wonderful 12-year-old daughter, Lily. My job is stable, my daughter is thriving, and Jennifer has always seemed like the perfect partner. We met in college, and since then, life felt like it was on autopilot, in the best way possible. Or so I thought. Looking back, there were red flags I ignored. For the past couple of years, Jennifer's been distant. She'd brush it off as stress from work or her fitness classes. I trusted her, I had no reason not to. She was my wife, my best friend, the mother of my child. But the late nights, the sudden need to keep her phone password protected, and the vague answers about her whereabouts started to chip away at my peace of mind. I ignored my gut for too long. That changed one evening when I overheard Jennifer on the phone. She was laughing, giddy, almost like the way she used to be with me when we first started dating. It wasn't her usual tone. It felt wrong. I brushed it off, telling myself not to overthink. But something about that laugh planted a seed of doubt. Then there was her insistence on solo weekend getaways for self-care. The first couple of times, I supported her, thinking it was good for her mental health. But they became more frequent, always to the same wellness retreat. I'm not proud of this, but I started snooping. Her explanations didn't add up. I'm a tech guy, so tracking her phone wasn't hard. What I found made my stomach drop. She wasn't at a wellness retreat. She was meeting someone, him. I didn't know his name yet, just a few blurry photos of a man at the same location she'd been visiting. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. I needed more proof. This wasn't just about Jennifer and me, it was about protecting Lily. My daughter deserves stability, even if everything else falls apart. That's when I started my quiet investigation. I set up a few discrete apps to track her movements, collected screenshots of her texts, and pieced together a timeline. I knew I needed to stay calm, even though inside, I was a mess. For weeks, I operated on autopilot, work, taking Lily to soccer practice, dinner with Jennifer like nothing was wrong. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal. Jennifer would sit across from me at the dinner table, laughing with Lily, acting like the devoted wife and mom. I wanted to scream at her, ask her how she could lie so easily. But I stayed quiet because this wasn't just about catching her. This was about planning my next move, making sure Lily and I came out of this intact. The day I found undeniable proof, texts between her and him, was the day I knew I couldn't put this off any longer. She wasn't just lying, she was making a fool out of me, out of our marriage. The texts weren't just flirtatious. They were explicit. Reading them made me feel sick, but it also gave me the clarity I needed. This wasn't salvageable. Jennifer had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. After finding those texts, I couldn't unsee them. Jennifer wasn't just cheating, she was in a full-blown relationship with this guy. His name was Marcus. They exchanged I love yous, planned weekends together, and even joked about how clueless I was. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. I spent the next few weeks building my case. I copied every text, saved every GPS log, and even pulled up bank statements showing her secret expenses, dinners, hotel bookings, and gifts. She had her own credit card I didn't know about, which made it even easier for her to hide things. She probably thought I was too busy or too trusting to notice. Well, she wasn't wrong before, but I wasn't that guy anymore. Hiring a private investigator was my next step. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, but I needed solid evidence, not just for me but for the inevitable legal battle ahead. I reached out to a guy named Ben, recommended by a coworker who'd gone through a messy divorce. Ben didn't ask many questions. He just got to work. Within days, he had photos of Jennifer and Marcus meeting up at a hotel an hour away from home. They were holding hands, kissing, and walking around like a happy couple without a care in the world. Seeing those pictures broke something inside me. I wasn't just angry, I was humiliated. This was the woman I had built a life with, the person I trusted above anyone else. I kept my cool for Lily's sake. Every morning, I got her ready for school, packed her lunch, and dropped her off like everything was fine. But at night, after she went to bed, I stared at the evidence, trying to figure out what my next move should be. I couldn't just explode and confront Jennifer, it would turn into chaos, and Lily didn't deserve to be caught in the middle. I needed a plan. One night, while Jennifer was out working late, I sat down with Ben's report and started organizing everything. I created a folder labeled Divorce Plan on my laptop and backed it up on a flash drive. Inside were the screenshots of her texts, the GPS records, the PI's photos, and a timeline of her lies. I even wrote a list of questions I'd ask her when the time came to confront her, questions she couldn't weasel out of. The hardest part of all of this was pretending around Jennifer. I knew what she was doing, but I still had to sit there every night and listen to her excuses. She'd come home late, kiss me on the cheek, and tell me how exhausted she was from work. Some nights, she'd sit next to me on the couch, scrolling through her phone while I pretended to watch TV. I wondered if she was texting him while sitting right next to me. The thought made my blood boil, but I bit my tongue. Then there was Lily. God, she adored her mom. Jennifer was always the fun parent, the one who baked cookies, planned birthday parties, and showed up to every soccer game with a big smile. It made me sick to think of how easily Jennifer could lie to her, how she could risk destroying our family for some fling. I knew I had to protect Lily from the fallout. She deserved better than to watch her parents tear each other apart. As weeks turned into a month, I started preparing for the confrontation. I talked to a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Valerie who specialized in family law. Valerie walked me through the process, explaining how to protect my assets, secure custody of Lily, and ensure Jennifer couldn't spin the narrative in her favor. I learned that staying calm and collected would be crucial when the time came to face Jennifer. By now, the house felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Jennifer was growing more confident, almost brazen in her lies. She probably thought I was too naive or too preoccupied with work to notice. But every time she smiled at me, I saw the betrayal behind it, and every time she touched me, I felt repulsed. I wasn't going to let her win. She had made her choices, and now it was time for me to make mine. The confrontation was coming, and this time, I'd be the one in control. The night I confronted Jennifer started out like any other. She came home late, claiming she'd been at a networking event with colleagues. I'd heard that excuse so many times it had lost all meaning. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her heels, and gave me that tired smile. Long day, she said, heading straight for the wine cabinet. I sat at the dining table with my laptop open, pretending to work. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face neutral. "Hey Jen," I said casually. "Mind sitting down for a minute? I need to talk to you about something." Her expression faltered for a second, but she quickly recovered, flashing that practiced smile. "Sure, what's up?" She poured herself a glass of wine and sat across from me, completely unaware of what was coming. For a moment, I hesitated. This was the mother of my child, the woman I'd once thought I'd grow old with. But then I remembered the texts, the lies, the photos of her with Marcus, and any shred of doubt I had disappeared. "I know about Marcus," I said, my voice calm but firm. Her hand froze midair, the wineglass hovering just below her lips. For a split second, her face went pale, but then she recovered, leaning back in her chair with a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" I didn't say anything. Instead, I turned my laptop around and showed her the first batch of screenshots, the texts between her and Marcus, the ones where they called each other baby and planned their secret getaways. Her face drained of color. "Andrew, this isn't what it looks like," she stammered, her voice shaking. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I said, my tone still measured. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around with him for over a year. Do you really think I wouldn't find out?" She tried to regain control of the situation, switching tactics. "It's not what you think. He's just a friend, and those messages are being taken out of context." "Taken out of context?" I raised an eyebrow, flipping to the next file, photos from the PI. Pictures of them holding hands, kissing, walking into a hotel together. "What's the context for this, Jen?" "A friendly kiss. A networking event in bed." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She was cornered, and she knew it. "You had me raising Lily while you played house with someone else," I continued. My voice was calm, but I could feel the anger bubbling under the surface. "Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? To Lily?" At the mention of our daughter, Jennifer's face crumpled. "I didn't want to hurt you, Andrew. I swear I didn't mean for this to happen." "You didn't mean for this to happen?" I repeated, incredulous. "You've been lying to me for over a year." That's not an accident, Jennifer. That's a choice. She started crying then, burying her face in her hands. I waited, letting her tears fill the silence. She'd always been good at playing the victim, but this time, I wasn't falling for it. I've already spoken to a lawyer, I said after a long pause. We're getting a divorce. Her head shot up, her eyes wide with panic. Andrew, no. Please, we can work through this. Think about Lily. We can go to therapy, fix this. I cut her off. You don't get to play the family card now. You threw that away the moment you chose Marcus over us. Her tears turned to anger. You're being so cold. After everything we've built together, you're just going to throw it all away. You threw it away, I shot back. I'm just cleaning up the mess you made. She started pleading, her voice cracking, but I wasn't listening anymore. I stood up, grabbing the folder of evidence from the table. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, I said, heading for the door. And don't even think about trying to manipulate Lily. She doesn't deserve this. As I walked out of the room, her sobs echoed behind me. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of relief. I wasn't just standing up for myself, I was standing up for Lily, for the future we both deserved. The days after the confrontation were tense, to say the least. Jennifer swung between anger and desperation, trying every tactic in the book. One moment, she was apologizing and promising to fix things. The next, she was blaming me for driving her to cheat. It was exhausting, but I kept my focus on Lily and the steps I needed to take for the divorce. Jennifer moved into the guest bedroom that same night. She claimed it was for Lily's sake, so we wouldn't append her routine just yet, but I knew it was a strategic move on her part. She wanted to maintain control of the narrative, make it seem like this was just a bump in the road. I didn't argue. Let her think she had the upper hand. Meanwhile, I filed the divorce paperwork. Valerie, my lawyer, helped me navigate everything. We prioritized securing primary custody of Lily and ensuring Jennifer's affair didn't hurt her emotionally. Valerie was sharp, direct, and reassured me that I had a strong case. The evidence I gathered made it nearly impossible for Jennifer to argue against the divorce or custody terms. Jennifer's facade cracked quickly. A few days later, I overheard her on the phone with Marcus. He's being impossible, she hissed, her voice muffled through the guest room door. He won't even listen to me. The anger in her tone was almost laughable, as if I owed her anything after what she'd done. That evening, she tried to corner me in the kitchen while Lily was doing homework upstairs. Do you really want to tear this family apart? She asked, her voice dripping with manipulation. I turned to face her, calm but firm. You already did that, Jen. I'm just making sure Lily and I can move forward without more damage. She had no response, just a long defeated sigh before leaving the room. Despite everything, I kept my focus on Lily. She didn't need to know the details, but I could tell she felt the tension. Are you and Mom okay? She asked one night while we were playing cards. We're figuring some things out, I told her, keeping my tone light. But no matter what, I'll always be here for you. She nodded, satisfied with the answer for now. Protecting her from this mess was my top priority. Jennifer, on the other hand, was unraveling. I could see it in the way she avoided me, how her once carefully crafted lies were replaced with frantic attempts to hold on to control. Marcus stopped returning her calls, which only made things worse for her. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally regaining control of my life. Jennifer's desperation hit a new level about a week after the confrontation. I came home from work to find her sitting at the dining table with a stack of papers. We need to talk, she said, her tone wavering between frustration and resolve. I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. I've talked to a lawyer too, she said, her voice sharp. If you think you're going to take Lily away from me, you're mistaken. Her sudden assertiveness didn't rattle me. I had prepared for this. I'm not trying to take Lily from you, I replied calmly. I'm protecting her. And if you're serious about involving lawyers, you should know the evidence is on my side. Her face turned red. You think you're so perfect, Andrew? You're not. You've ignored me for years, buried yourself in work, and acted like I didn't exist. That stung, but I didn't let it show. If I wasn't the husband you wanted, you should have told me, I said evenly. Cheating wasn't the solution, Jennifer. You chose this, not me. She broke down then, crying into her hands. I just wanted to feel wanted, she mumbled, her voice cracking. I felt no sympathy. I thought about Lily upstairs, probably listening to the muffled argument, and that hardened my resolve. "You didn't just hurt me," I said. "You risked everything we built. For what? A fling? An ego boost?" She didn't answer, just shook her head. After that, things changed. Jennifer became quieter, less combative, but not out of remorse. It was strategy. She started acting overly affectionate toward Lily, trying to present herself as the devoted mother. I saw through it, but I didn't interfere. I'd already spoken to Lily's teacher and a child psychologist, preparing for any custody evaluations that might come our way. One day, Lily came home upset. "Mom said you don't love her anymore," she blurted out during dinner. I froze, my fork mid-air. "What?" "She said you're the one who wants to split up," Lily continued, her eyes wide and teary. Jennifer, who was at the counter behind us, quickly jumped in. "Sweetie, I didn't mean it like that. Daddy and I just have some things to work through." I put my hand on Lily's. "Your mom and I are going through a tough time," I said gently. "But one thing that will never change is how much we both love you." Lily nodded, but I could tell she was confused and hurt. I shot Jennifer a hard look, silently warning her not to play these games again. That night, I emailed Valerie, documenting what had happened. Jennifer was unraveling, and I needed to stay one step ahead. Meanwhile, Marcus had disappeared completely. I'd done a little digging and learned he was a married man himself. His wife had found out about the affair and kicked him out. Jennifer had traded our life for a man who couldn't even keep his own together. The realization seemed to crush her. She became withdrawn, avoiding me unless it was necessary. But the damage was done, and I wasn't about to let her off the hook. With every passing day, I felt stronger, more in control. The storm wasn't over, but I was ready for whatever came next. As the divorce proceedings officially began, things took an ugly turn. Jennifer wasn't the woman I had married anymore. She was desperate, angry, and willing to do whatever it took to maintain control. I expected her to fight for custody of Lily, but I didn't expect her to play dirty. Her lawyer filed a motion claiming I was an absent father, too focused on work to be involved in Lily's life. It was laughable considering I'd been the one taking her to school, helping with homework, and attending every soccer game. But Jennifer had clearly spun a different story. I stayed calm and handed everything over to Valerie. I had receipts, emails to Lily's teachers, pictures from school events, and detailed schedules showing how much of my life revolved around her. Valerie assured me we were in a strong position, but it didn't make the process any less stressful. Jennifer, on the other hand, seemed emboldened by her lies. She started dropping comments in front of Lily, subtle but cutting. "Maybe your dad will have time for you after this is all over," she said one evening when I had to step away from a family dinner to take a work call. Lily didn't say anything, but I saw the confusion in her eyes. Jennifer was planting seeds of doubt, and it made my blood boil. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I focused on showing Lily that I was always there for her. I kept our routines as normal as possible, helping with her school projects, making her favorite pancakes on Sundays, and just being present. The court-mandated custody evaluation was the most nerve-wracking part. A social worker came to observe our family dynamic, sitting in on dinner and asking questions about our parenting styles. Jennifer put on her best loving mom act, but I could see how forced it was. Lily could too. The evaluator asked Lily directly how she felt about the situation. "I just want things to go back to normal," she said quietly. It broke my heart, but I knew this was the best path forward for her. The day of the custody hearing, Jennifer looked defiant as we sat across from each other in the courtroom. Her lawyer painted a picture of me as a workaholic who couldn't prioritize family. But Valerie tore that narrative apart with the evidence we'd gathered. When it was my turn to speak, I looked directly at the judge and spoke from the heart. "My daughter is the most important part of my life. I've been there for her every step of the way, and I will continue to be, no matter what happens. This isn't about me or Jennifer, it's about Lily and what's best for her." Jennifer didn't even look at me. The ruling came later that week. Joint custody, but I was awarded primary residence. Jennifer would have visitation rights, but Lily would live with me full-time. It was a win, but it felt bittersweet. I wanted to protect Lily from the fallout entirely, but I knew this was the best compromise the system could offer. Jennifer didn't take it well. When we left the courthouse, she hissed under her breath, "You'll regret this, Andrew." But I didn't respond. I was done engaging in her games. Lily and I went out for ice cream that night to celebrate. She didn't fully understand what had happened, but she knew I'd always be there for her. That was all that mattered. After the custody decision, Jennifer's behavior became increasingly erratic. She still had visitation rights, but her interactions with Lily started to feel more like performances than genuine attempts to connect. She'd take Lily out for expensive lunches, buy her extravagant gifts, and then guilt-trip her about not spending enough time together. One weekend, Lily came back with a brand new tablet and a hesitant smile. "Mom said I could use this to call her whenever I want," she told me. I thanked her but gently set it aside. Later that evening, I checked the tablet and found an entire thread of texts between Jennifer and Lily filled with emotional manipulation. Things like, "Daddy only wants you to think I'm the bad guy," and "I miss you so much. I cry every night thinking about how unfair this is." I didn't confront Lily about it. Instead, I saved the messages and forwarded them to Valerie. Jennifer was walking a fine line, and I wasn't about to let her drag Lily into her mess. Meanwhile, Jennifer's personal life was falling apart. Marcus was completely out of the picture, and I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd moved out of state to try and reconcile with his own wife. Jennifer, on the other hand, was struggling. She'd taken a leave of absence from work, burnout, she claimed, but I knew better. One day, Lily mentioned that her mom had been drinking more than usual. "She fell asleep on the couch when I was there," she said quietly, her face troubled. That set off alarm bells. I filed a motion to modify the visitation schedule, arguing that Jennifer's behavior could be harmful to Lily. The court ordered a wellness check, and when the evaluator visited Jennifer's home, it was clear she wasn't managing well. The house was a mess, and Jennifer was visibly unkempt. After that, her visitation was reduced to supervised weekends. Jennifer was furious, of course. She showed up at my door one evening, demanding to talk. "You're ruining my relationship with my daughter," she shouted, her voice slurring slightly. "Jennifer, you're doing this to yourself," I said calmly. "Lily deserves stability, and right now, you're not providing that." She tried to push past me into the house, but I blocked the door. "You need to leave," I said firmly. "This isn't the time or place for this conversation." She stormed off, muttering something about how I was trying to turn Lily against her. It hurt to see her like this, as much as I hated what she'd done. There was a time when Jennifer was a great mom, when we were partners in every sense of the word. But that person was gone now, replaced by someone I barely recognized. For Lily's sake, I kept things as steady as possible. We established new routines, focused on her schoolwork and soccer games, and even started taking weekend trips together. She seemed happier, more relaxed, and less caught in the crossfire. But Jennifer's decline wasn't over. One night, I got a call from her sister, Caroline. "Andrew, I think you should know. Jennifer's in trouble," she said hesitantly. "She got a DUI last night." I felt a mix of anger and sadness. This was the same woman who used to plan elaborate birthday parties for Lily, who once spent an entire weekend teaching her to ride a bike. Now, she was endangering herself and everyone around her. It was clear that Jennifer was spiraling out of control. And while part of me wanted to step in and help, I knew my priority had to be Lily. Jennifer was losing everything: her career, her social standing, and now, even her ability to be the mother Lily deserved. And yet, through all of it, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. The storm was starting to pass. Jennifer's DUI was a wake-up call for everyone but her. She refused to acknowledge the gravity of the situation, insisting it was just a one-time mistake. The court didn't see it that way. Her supervised visitation was temporarily suspended, pending a full review. For the first time since all this began, Lily and I had real peace in our home. Lily was adjusting well to the new normal, though she asked about her mom often. "Do you think Mom's okay?" she asked one night as I tucked her in. "She's going through a hard time right now," I explained carefully. "But it's not your job to worry about that. She loves you, and she's trying to figure things out." Lily nodded, but I could tell she was holding on to a lot of emotions she didn't know how to express. To help her cope, I enrolled her in counseling. It was the best decision I could have made. Over time, she started to open up, not just about her mom but about her own feelings of guilt and confusion. Meanwhile, Jennifer was unraveling further. She refused to take accountability for her actions, blaming me, Marcus, and even her own parents for how her life had turned out. Caroline kept me updated, though her calls were becoming more infrequent. "She's not listening to anyone," Caroline said during our last conversation. She thinks everyone's out to get her. Honestly, Andrew, I don't know what to do anymore. Neither did I. Jennifer was my ex-wife, but she was still Lily's mom. No matter how angry I was at her, I didn't want her to completely self-destruct. One day, Jennifer showed up at Lily's school unannounced. She wasn't allowed to take her, of course, but her presence caused a scene. Lily was pulled out of class early, confused and upset. The school called me immediately. When I arrived, Jennifer was sitting in the principal's office, looking disheveled and agitated. "I just wanted to see my daughter," she said when I walked in. "Jennifer, this isn't the way to do it," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You know the rules." She glared at me. "You're turning her against me," she spat. "I'm her mother, Andrew. You can't take that away from me." I didn't respond. There was no point. Instead, I focused on Lily, who was sitting quietly in a corner, clutching her backpack. "Come on, kiddo," I said gently, holding out my hand. She ran to me without hesitation, and we left Jennifer behind. After that incident, I filed for a restraining order to ensure Jennifer couldn't pull a stunt like that again. It was granted, though I could see how much it hurt Lily to know her mom was now legally barred from showing up unannounced. Over the next few weeks, Jennifer's name came up less and less at home. Lily seemed to accept the distance, focusing on school and her friends. We even started planning a vacation, a fresh start for both of us. But just as things seemed to be settling down, I got the call that would change everything. It was Caroline, her voice trembling. "Andrew, it's Jennifer," she said. She's gone." My heart sank. "What do you mean, gone?" "She overdosed," Caroline whispered, breaking into tears. I sat down, the weight of her words hitting me all at once. Jennifer was gone, just like that. All the anger, the betrayal, the heartbreak, it suddenly felt so small compared to the finality of her death. For Lily's sake, I stayed strong. I explained the situation to her as gently as I could, and together, we attended the small memorial service Caroline arranged. Watching my daughter say goodbye to her mother was one of the hardest moments of my life. Jennifer's death marked the end of a painful chapter, but it also brought a strange sense of closure. For the first time, I could truly focus on rebuilding a life for Lily and me, one rooted in love, trust, and hope for the future. The days following Jennifer's death felt surreal. I'd been bracing for more battles, more chaos, but now there was only quiet. Too quiet. Lily took the news harder than I'd expected. She wasn't crying as much as I thought she would, but her silence spoke volumes. She'd sit in her room for hours, flipping through old photo albums of her mom, sometimes staring out the window. One night, as I tucked her in, she finally spoke. "Daddy, do you think Mom loved me?" Her voice was barely a whisper. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, kneeling beside her. "Your mom loved you more than anything. She had a hard time showing it the right way." Lily nodded, her eyes welling up. "I miss her." "I know," I said, wrapping her in a hug. "And it's okay to miss her. It's okay to feel sad, or mad, or anything else you're feeling. I'm here for you, no matter what." For the next few weeks, I made it my mission to help Lily process her grief. We attended counseling together, something I hadn't done before. At first, I thought it was just for her, but those sessions helped me too. Talking about Jennifer, the good memories and the bad, allowed us to confront the pain instead of burying it. The house felt emptier without Jennifer, but it also felt lighter. The tension was gone, replaced by a quiet stillness that gave me space to reflect. For years, I'd carried the weight of her betrayal, the anger and resentment. But now, I found myself letting go. Not because I forgave her, but because holding on to it wouldn't help Lily or me move forward. I channeled my energy into being the best dad I could be. I got more involved in Lily's soccer team, volunteered to help with her school events, and even started taking cooking lessons so we could make fun meals together. Little by little, the laughter returned to our home. One evening, while we were making tacos, Lily turned to me and said, "It's been a good day, hasn't it?" "It has," I replied, smiling. "And there are going to be a lot more good days ahead." Jennifer's death had left a void, but it also gave me clarity. I realized I didn't have to fix everything overnight. Healing wasn't a destination, it was a journey, one that Lily and I were taking together. As the months passed, Lily and I settled into a rhythm. It wasn't easy, but life started to feel normal again, our new normal. The counseling sessions helped Lily process her grief, and I could see her gradually coming back to herself. She laughed more, played more, and even started making plans with her friends again. For me, healing came in small steps. At first, I threw myself into parenting, focusing entirely on Lily's well-being. But as things stabilized, I realized I needed to work on myself too. Jennifer's betrayal had shaken my confidence, not just as a husband but as a person. One day, while cleaning out the guest bedroom Jennifer had been using before the divorce, I found an old photo of the three of us at Lily's third birthday party. We looked so happy. For a moment, I felt a pang of sadness, not for Jennifer, but for the life I thought we had. I'd spent so long living in the shadow of that betrayal that I forgot who I was before it all. I started going to the gym, something I hadn't done in years. At first, it was just to clear my head, but soon it became a routine I looked forward to. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned, reading, hiking, and even learning guitar, which Lily thought was totally cringy, but secretly loved when I played for her. Work was another anchor. My programming projects kept me busy, and my co-workers became a surprising source of support. A few even knew about what I'd been through, and their encouragement helped me regain a sense of purpose. But the most rewarding part was watching Lily thrive. She started excelling in school, earning straight A's and even winning an art contest. One evening, as we were hanging her winning drawing on the fridge, she said, "I'm glad it's just us now, Dad. I think we make a good team." That one sentence made everything worth it. As life moved forward, I began to entertain the idea of dating again, not for anyone else's sake, but for mine. I wasn't rushing into anything, but I realized I didn't want to spend the rest of my life alone. One weekend, I ran into an old college friend, Clara, at a local bookstore. She was browsing the same programming section, and we struck up a conversation. It turned out she was back in town after a divorce of her own, and we ended up grabbing coffee. It wasn't a romantic spark, at least not yet, but it reminded me that there were still good, honest people out there. And maybe, just maybe, there was still room in my life for love again. For now though, my focus was on Lily and building a future we could both be proud of. Jennifer's choices had forced me to confront the darkest parts of my life, but in doing so, they also helped me rediscover who I was. And that, I realized, was the start of something better. Clara and I began meeting for coffee every few weeks. At first, it was purely platonic, two old friends reconnecting. But over time, those casual conversations started to feel like something more. She had this quiet strength about her, someone who understood what it was like to rebuild your life from the ground up. Still, I was cautious. After everything with Jennifer, trust didn't come easily. Clara seemed to understand that without me even needing to say it. She never pushed for more than I was ready to give. One Saturday, she invited me and Lily to a community event at her church. It was simple, live music, food trucks, and games for kids, but it was one of the most relaxing days I'd had in years. Lily clicked with Clara right away. They bonded over their mutual love of baking, and by the end of the day, Lily was begging me to let her try one of Clara's cupcake recipes. As I watched them laugh together, I felt a pang of something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time: hope. That night, after Lily went to bed, I called Clara. "I just wanted to say thank you," I told her. "Today was really nice." "You're welcome," she said softly. "I'm glad you both came." There was a pause, and then she added, "Andrew, I know you're still healing, and I don't want to rush anything. But I think we could have something good here, if you're ready for it." Her honesty caught me off guard, but it also felt safe. Like I didn't have to second-guess every word or look for hidden motives. "I'm not ready to jump into anything," I admitted. "But I'd like to see where this goes." "That's all I needed to hear," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Over the next few months, Clara became a quiet but steady presence in our lives. She wasn't trying to replace Jennifer, and I appreciated that. For Lily, she was more of a mentor, a fun, encouraging adult who helped with school projects and taught her how to make perfect frosting. For me, Clara was a reminder that not everyone would let me down. Little by little, I found myself letting my guard down around her. One evening, after dinner, Lily asked me, "Do you like Clara?" I blinked, caught off guard. "Why do you ask?" She shrugged. "Because I do. And I think Mom would have liked her too." Her words stayed with me long after she went to bed. It was the first time Lily had mentioned Jennifer without sadness or anger. Maybe, in her own way, she was moving forward too. As I stood in the doorway of Lily's room, watching her sleep, I realized that for the first time in years, the future didn't feel so uncertain. It felt like the beginning of something good. A year had passed since Jennifer's death, and life had finally settled into a rhythm that felt peaceful. Lily was thriving at school, and Clara had become a steady, comforting presence in both of our lives. She wasn't trying to replace Jennifer, but her patience and warmth filled a void I hadn't realized was so large. Our evenings were simple: homework, family dinners, and sometimes a game of cards or movie night. Clara joined us often, bringing her calm energy and quick wit that Lily adored. Seeing the two of them bond brought me a sense of peace I hadn't thought possible. One Friday evening, as we cleared the table after dinner, Lily made an announcement. "Dad, Clara, I'm inviting you both to career day at school. You can talk about programming, and Clara can talk about baking." Clara laughed, glancing at me. "I'm not sure frosting counts as a career," she teased. "It does if you're good at it," Lily shot back confidently. "Guess we're doing career day," I said, smiling at them both. The event was more fun than I'd expected. Lily proudly introduced me to her classmates, explaining my job with surprising accuracy. Clara's baking station was a hit. Kids and teachers alike were lining up to decorate cookies with her. Watching Lily dart between the two of us, so full of energy and pride, I felt a warmth I hadn't in years. Later that evening, after Lily went to bed, Clara and I sat on the back porch, sipping coffee and enjoying the quiet. "She's a great kid," Clara said. "You've done such an amazing job with her, Andrew." "I've had help," I replied, glancing at her. She blushed but didn't look away. "I'm happy to be part of your lives. Both of your lives." For the first time, I felt ready to open up about everything, not just the hurt Jennifer had caused, but my fears about trusting again and whether I was enough for Lily. Clara listened without judgment, her hand resting lightly on mine. When I finished, she said softly, "You don't have to carry all of that alone anymore." It wasn't a grand declaration, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. That moment marked a turning point, not just for me, but for us. Clara wasn't just a comforting presence anymore. She was someone I wanted to build a future with. As we sat there under the stars, I realized that moving forward didn't mean forgetting the past. It meant learning from it, growing, and allowing myself to hope again. For the first time in years, I was ready to embrace whatever came next. Life with Clara became more natural as months passed, like she had always been a part of our little family. She wasn't just someone I was dating anymore, she was a partner, someone I could lean on, someone who made life feel lighter. For Lily, Clara became more than just a friend. One Saturday, I found the two of them in the kitchen, flour everywhere, laughing as they tried and failed to make homemade pasta. "We're learning," Clara called over her shoulder as I walked in. "You're making a mess," I teased, stepping in to help. "It's a creative process, Dad." Lily protested, smudging flour on my cheek. It was such a small moment, but it hit me hard. For the first time in so long, the house was filled with laughter, no tension, no fear of what might come next. Just pure, unfiltered joy. Things between Clara and me deepened quietly. She never pushed, never demanded more than I could give, and in return, I found myself wanting to give her everything. One evening, as we walked through the park after dinner, I stopped her. Lily was playing nearby, chasing fireflies with a group of kids. "I want you to know how much I appreciate you," I said, looking into her eyes. Clara tilted her head, a small smile on her lips. "Where's this coming from?" "I don't know," I admitted. I've been thinking about how much you've done for Lily and me, and I want you to know it doesn't go unnoticed." Her smile softened. "You've done just as much for me, Andrew. More than you realize." In that moment, I wanted to say more, but I held back. Not out of fear, but because it felt like the right time would come soon enough. Jennifer wasn't a name we mentioned much anymore, but she was still a shadow in our lives. Lily would occasionally bring up a memory. "Mom used to love this song," or "Mom made the best Christmas cookies." I never shut those moments down, but I didn't dwell on them either. One night, after tucking Lily into bed, I found her holding a small photo of Jennifer. "Do you think she'd be proud of me?" she asked quietly. The question caught me off guard, but I nodded immediately. "Of course she would. You're amazing, Lily." She smiled, seeming satisfied with that answer, and drifted off to sleep. After that, I realized I hadn't given Lily enough space to grieve openly. She needed to hold on to the good parts of Jennifer, even if it was hard for me. Clara, as always, understood without me having to explain. "If she wants to talk about her mom, let her," she said gently. It's not about replacing anyone, it's about finding balance. And she was right. That summer, Lily turned 13. She wanted a small party with a few friends, and Clara insisted on helping me organize it. It was the first time I'd really let someone else take the reins, and I was glad I did. Clara made it perfect: bright decorations, Lily's favorite cake, and a backyard full of laughter. Watching her and Lily laugh as they sprayed each other with silly string, I felt something shift inside me. That night, after the party, I found Clara on the porch, sipping a glass of wine. I joined her, sitting in the chair next to hers. "I've been thinking," I said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Oh," she teased, raising an eyebrow. I chuckled. "No, it's good. I don't want to keep waiting for the perfect time. I think we have something really good here, Clara. And I want to see where it can go." Her smile widened, her eyes glistening slightly. "I want that too," she said softly. In that moment, I realized we weren't just rebuilding our lives anymore. We were building something entirely new, something stronger, rooted in trust, love, and hope. After that conversation with Clara, everything seemed to fall into place. It wasn't a dramatic shift, just a quiet certainty that we were ready for the next chapter in our lives. A few weeks later, while Lily was at a friend's house, Clara and I went on a day trip to a nearby lake. It was simple, just us, a picnic blanket, and a cooler of snacks. As we sat by the water, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I reached for her hand. "I want to talk to you about something," I said, my voice steady but my heart pounding. She turned to me, her expression warm and curious. "What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking about us," I began. "About how much you've brought into my life, and Lily's life. I can't imagine going forward without you." Her breath hitched slightly, and I squeezed her hand. "I know we've both been through a lot," I continued. "But I feel ready to take the next step, if you are. I want us to build something together, officially." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but her smile was radiant. "Andrew, I've been waiting for you to say that," she whispered. She leaned in, and we kissed, the kind of kiss that wasn't about fireworks but about deep, quiet connection. Over the next few weeks, we started discussing what our future might look like. Clara didn't want to rush into moving in, and I agreed. We wanted to ease Lily into the idea, to make sure she felt comfortable with every step. When we sat her down to talk, Lily's reaction surprised me. "Are you asking if Clara can move in?" she asked, her tone curious but calm. "Well, not right away," I said, exchanging a glance with Clara. "But we wanted to know how you'd feel about it, eventually." Lily grinned. "I think it'd be awesome. Clara's already here all the time anyway." We all laughed, and the tension melted away.